At the therapist building, everything is calm. The night is just peaceful. Stars are out. It's just calm. Deeply calm. Now in the past there's been glimmers of noise. Glimmers of hints for the big boom that'll come later. But for now, it is just quiet. And I'm gonna whisper because that's how it is. It's where you realize that the building is incomplete and where you realize deeply that there's some karmic endings that need to come into play here. It's the last gasp of the quiet. The sun's in Scorpio. Venus is in Scorpio. Jupiter in Cancer. Saturn in Pisces. Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. The North Node in Pisces. And Neptune in Pisces. Uranus is in Taurus. All earth and water energies that make for somebody born a very stable person, a very, very deeply feeling person. And I'm going to be discussing the qualities and characteristics and traits of who they are in this episode of the Cosmic Sky Podcast. This is a look back in history, well, not so recent history. Actually, I have a video which is at the top of the week that I did at this time, November 16th, 2025. Talk about the astrology of this particular day and around this time. And all the aspects that I'm going to be delving into will be overlapping with each other. But there's a lot of karmic endings at this time. There's a lot of things coming to a close, coming to a crescendo, culmination. The last, very, very last quiet time before 2026 happens. And you remember what happened in 2026. We have Saturn conjunct Neptune. We have all the planets entering fire and air. We have, in July we had the magic triangle that happened. So, all this big and loud energy happens after the quiet time, precisely from September 1st to January 26th of 2026. So now, in this episode, I'll be discussing what it means if you have all these aspects in your chart and the signs that they are in, because remember, it's not just the aspects involved, there's also the sign that they are in. So let us just delve in to what's going on right here. So let's just take a baby that was born November 16th, 2025, 2:02 p.m. in the afternoon. They would have a Pisces rising. So they would have Scorpio Sun, Libra Moon, Pisces rising. Going through their placements, because I have them in my mind. I should actually pull up the chart, just give you an overview of their placements, some of the placements that I will not be discussing. Just putting it in here. putting in the chart for November 16th of 2025. Here, putting in 2:02 p.m. What I remember on this particular day was Sunday. I was driving with my dad to a lake that I typically go to when I'm visiting my grandma. Visiting Go Lake, and I remember driving away, pulling out of a dock with like restrooms to the side, and you have a walk down to the dock, and then you have the water and everything, turning around, exiting the parking, going like north, I believe, if I'm getting it right. And it was sunny, it was a little bit warm. Yeah, so that's what I remember about that particular day. I was visiting my grandma at the time. So, okay, so Scorpio sun, deep, intense at times, but more so very, very intuitive. When I talk about like a dog, how they just see into your soul, how the Scorpio sun sees into your, sees deeply into who you are, sees you at your core, sees you for your depths, your truth, your real self, beyond your personality, beyond the little outfits and fancy lipstick that you put on and shoes or, whatever. It wants depth in connection. Now, the moon in Libra needs relationship. So you want a deep, intimate relationship. Harmony, balance. That's the kind of thing. Deeply wanting to partner, wanting to relate, not wanting to be alone. But the person who has this natal chart really values their alone time because of all the Pisces there. Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Really, really very, very strong and very, very sharp about their own beliefs, about their own philosophy over life. And very, very, there's a bit of, it's like the personality type is so incredibly watery. There's a bit of an edge to it, but it's watery. But it's optimistic. I wouldn't say this, fiery. It's more, hey, it's more, optimistic. There's a positivity to their communication. Venus and Scorpio, well, they want depth in relationship. And Venus is considered fall detriment in the sign of Scorpio because it rules Taurus. Scorpio is opposite that, but it can really, really be more so just not settling for a half-assed surface level relationship. Now, Mars in Sagittarius needs movement, action, stimulation. Mars in Sagittarius needs to be able to move its energy, to speak its truth, to assert its need for freedom. It needs adventure. And then you have the 4 retrograde planets all toward the end of the sign. So this soul coming in is a deeply evolved soul coming in at the particular time in history. Jupiter in Cancer, 25 degrees. Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees, 10 minutes away from that. So Jupiter in Cancer is at 25 degrees, 6 minutes. Saturn is in Pisces at 25 degrees, 16 minutes. Uranus is in Taurus at 29 degrees, 38 minutes. And Neptune in Pisces is at 29 degrees, 33 minutes. So you can tell how tight this is. And then Pluto is just at the very, very beginning of Aquarius. Lilith is at 26 degrees of Scorpio. And the North Node is right in the middle of the transit of being at 15 degrees and 28 minutes of Pisces, with Chiron at the end of Aries. Okay, that is the energy of this person's chart. Let that energy percolate in your mind and let you think about that energy as I go through here. But so, break down the aspects at this point, because I could talk about I just gave an overview of the placements, but I want to get into the specific aspects going on. And when I do these types of videos where I look at past days in history, I may go through the maybe I'll go through the chart, the general chart, and then do the aspects, focus on the aspects. This video is the focus on the aspects of what's going on, but like that was the introduction, like the appetizer. This is the main course now, the meal. So whenever I look at a past chart, I'm going to focus on the aspects most predominantly, because then I can look at the placements as well, as aspects sort of, 2 for 1, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And as I said before, there's a lot of overlap. We have the Sun, Jupiter, Saturn, Lilith. All those 4 planets, forming beautiful harmonious aspects, conjunctions and trines to one another. The conjunction, the trine is the aspect that we're talking about. The conjunction is the blending of the 2 energies, the merging of the 2 energies when they come together and form beautiful, like when a planet is conjunct another. It all depends on the planet involved, whether it's positive or negative. The conjunction is just the blending of the energies. The coming together of the energies. And then the trine, remember, is that harmonious flowing connection that happens when a planet is in the same element as another planet. So conjunctions are when planets are in the exact same sign at the exact same degree. So now let us talk about the first one, which is a beautiful aspect going on in this person's chart. The Sun in Scorpio trine Jupiter in Cancer. And basically all of these planets are in water signs. This is all water. This person is a deeply watery, emotional, intuitive, introverted chart. Deeply wanting quiet, wanting peace. Like, that's profound. That's huge. So Sun trine Jupiter. And I believe if you go back to this channel when I talk about the astrology of November 16th through the 22nd, I do believe. Maybe I talk about some of these aspects at the time that I did this. That was before I had my awakening, I had my transformation. I was very, very, crispy critter, I want to say that's my term for it. Very depressed, very, kind of my weight was a little bit heavier. My S's were not as clear as they are now. There's just a lot of things that I was in 2025 that I am not this year in 2026. I think if you listen to this video, you'll find, obviously a difference. So, okay, now, the Sun trining Jupiter. Now, the Sun in Scorpio, Jupiter in Cancer. So the very, very first thing is they find the treasure in the dirt. They go into the depths. They go into the dark. They very, very delve deep into the dark aspects of life. What is it, the deep, dark aspects of what's going on in life? They want to go below that water and find all the treasures going on inside that water and dig them up and pull them up and reveal them and do all of this. That's what they want, is to pull up all those treasures, to really, really take a look at, put a magnifying glass on that deep, dark stuff. Yeah, they want to, they can delve so deep into the feelings. They are not afraid. The person born is not afraid to delve so deep into the feelings. They are just not even on the surface. They go deep into the emotions. They feel deeply. They tune into others' emotions deeply. They tune into their emotions deeply without sacrificing their emotional security. They can go so deep into the feelings and not lose a sense of home, familiarity, security, comfort, because it's Cancer. Because Scorpio is the moon's sign of fall. Because the moon, it's like the moon is emotional security, and Scorpio is like the opposite of, it's a water sign, it's like the opposite of emotional security. Betrayal, all the dark stuff of Scorpio can feel pretty lonely and unnourished, which is, not the most, I want to say, fortuitous place for the moon. Although it's not my belief system, it's just a different energy. Scorpio this moon can be very, very good. Some astrologers are deeply critical of planets in detriment or fall, but I want to look at the positive side of this and look at both sides, because everything in astrology, and I'm talking specifically about the planets in detriment and fall, Saturn, Aries, Mars in Cancer, Venus in Virgo, like all of that has a positive and negative. Like it's all positive and negative. Jupiter in Cancer is very, very much negative. Mars in Aries, very, very much negative. Venus in Pisces, there's a negative tied to that as well as a positive. So you have to take both sides into consideration, and I intend to do that in these videos. I think that if you see enough of these, you will understand that, and you will see that. So, so that's my note on planets and detriment and fall. And you can't really, put the placement in a box saying, oh, this is, so bad and, so wrong, whatever. No, it's just aspects of the placement. So, anyway. So, they're deeply intuitive. They can really, really feel into energies. They can really, really lean into their instincts. They know their needs. They know their needs deeply, emotional needs, and they will prioritize those needs. They're a very, very gentle, feminine, intuitive, soft, and sweet personality type. They're deeply sweet and loving, deeply sentimental also, deeply, they could be very, very romantic. But, they can pick up on what other people need before they even are consciously aware of, like, okay, I need this on an emotional level. Like, they know deeply other people's emotional needs. Like, they say, do you need this, or are you feeling sad, or, like, here, let me help you, let me come to you, let me give you a hug, or give you something to nurture you, or something, And the great thing about them is they're very, very nurturing. And the Scorpio component adds the layer of being able to have empathy and understanding and, intelligence upon the deeper, darker, more difficult, more challenging aspects of life. Like, they can hold your hand and nurture you and give you comfort and solace and understand you like Scorpio is a deeply compassionate sign because it understands all the dark stuff, all the things that could, go wrong, all the manipulation, all the the jealousy, the anger, the getting backstabbed, or depression, or OCD, like dark night of the soul, that kind of thing. Like they get that on a deeply intuitive level. But it's really, really what they need to know and what they want you to know about what is actually going on. So, and all these aspects you're going to find there's a lot of similarity between all the stuff I'm going to be talking about today. So, they can read into people's depths. Now, you can also be very, very resilient, deeply resilient, because the Scorpio energy provides that resilience. The Scorpio energy is like the cactus in the desert. And the cactus is a resilient plant in an environment where you can't grow any plants because it's so dry and so hot. Like Scorpios are deeply resilient. They, what was I going to say? They can survive through very, very tough experiences and tough environments and, tough waters. They can really, really live that out, and they can really, really, thrive during very, very difficult, very, very, uncomfortable events. They can be deeply resilient when it comes to getting through tough experiences, and it's like getting wounded and healing those wounds. Like you've gone through things so tough that you've developed the strength to get over that and to rise above that and to be able to survive and thrive even through that experience because you got through it in that kind of way. So you can show those qualities. You can ride on stormy seas and always come back to the shore. No matter how rough the terrain is, you can always come back to that easy place, that comfortable place. You can go so deep into the vast uncertainty and the mystery of emotions, and this person's not afraid to let go and has accepted that life is a mess. And the South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces, like you're leaving behind structure, order, all those things. And it's about transcending and surrendering into the messiness and into the intuitive feel and understanding of this reality. That they're not afraid to flow and like go with the flow is really, really huge, especially with that Pisces rising. River flowing, flowing with life. And Saturn and Pisces does create this element of disorganization, but they're not meant to lead toward organization. So Saturn and Pisces is supporting them very strongly as Saturn is on the ascendant. It is conjunct the ascendant. And Neptune is also there. So these are two heavyweight planets on the ascendant, creating discipline and being able to crystallize dreams. It creates this element of seriousness. It creates this element of karma. It creates this element of empathy and transcending into the oneness of all that is, all this kind of thing going on. So, now they thrive through challenge and struggle, and they thrive through what is difficult, what is taxing, because you feel emotionally safe through it all. You can get through such a hard emotional challenge, and you can always lean back on your emotional safety, because you know how to feel at home inside yourself. You know the value of the Cancer New Moon themes, the Cancer, thing of, feeling at home inside yourself. Like you have a solid sense of home and a safety net to go back to inside yourself through all this difficulty. Now, the Sun is also trying Saturn in water signs. The Sun is in Scorpio, Saturn is in Pisces, and I want to specifically put the emphasis on the Saturn in Pisces part of this because this is so profound. This is also deeply intuitive. You can go into the depths of people. You can read their energy, pick up on their intuitive signals. Now you're drawn to the mystical. You're drawn to the spiritual. Any spiritual topic, any spiritual, endeavor, Reiki, oracle cards, meditation, like all the spiritual practices. And Saturn in Pisces indicates that you have toward the end of the sign, so you've really evolved in your discipline of spiritual practices and spiritual endeavors of being able to focus on nurturing your own life and your own body, and being able to practice all these spiritual things. All this, whatever you define as your spiritual practice, you're able to become very serious about that. And like Saturn says, you better work at it. You better put the work in. And Saturn in Pisces seeks to strengthen its intuition. And it is willing to put the work in with its spiritual connection to the higher power and blending the worlds between fantasy and reality. And it wants to strengthen its relationship with its intuition, higher power. On my original channel, and I have it here on this channel that we posted, the video about Saturn Pisces that I did back in March of 2023. You can go back and hear what I have to say about that, just when Saturn was entering Pisces. Now this is nearing the end of the transit. So the Saturn in Pisces is really huge in this person's natal chart. So so they want to dig into not only their emotions, but others' emotions. They, as I said, again, overlapping, knowing what they need before they need it. They may take your intuitive, they're very good at taking the intuitive spiritual desires that go on and make them practical in the tangible reality. Make them practical in the tangible world. They want to take what is going on intuitively, what is going on spiritually, and make them real. Make them really stand out and be very profound in that sense of the word. So you want to take what you want on what direction your intuition is calling you that feels right, and really make it concrete here and now. Now they can be connected to people on a deep emotional level, and they know how to provide the nourishment to others, because we're talking about nourishment and emotional support. They give a lot of emotional support. They know how to maintain a friendship, maintain a connection. They know how to provide emotional nourishment, emotional closeness, and emotional connection, really making the person feel seen and heard and felt in that relationship. They're deeply empathetic. They could be, somebody with this chart could be an empath. They could be deeply psychic, deeply intuitive, deeply empathic. They know how to provide emotional care and support. So then they have discipline. They have a lot of discipline. And they have your emotions, and they have the discipline, but they're not like logical left brain. I'm going to just follow these rules and these commands just by robotically just putting one foot or the other, working so hard, like they work so hard, but their emotions and their intuition help serve as a guide to them along the way. They're able to take their emotions and being able to lead their lives with their emotions. They're able to be very disciplined, be very dedicated, but having that intuitive spiritual component to what they're doing. So their intuition always guides them to the next right direction. They allow things to unfold. They co-create the reality. They trust the universe. They trust in the divine. They know how to work their intuition and let their intuition guide them. So, Jupiter trine Saturn. Now, this is deeply fortunate in this person's chart. There's a natural sense remember, Jupiter's in Cancer, Saturn is in Pisces, and now we form the combination between these two planets involved. So, okay. So, now, Jupiter trine Saturn. They feel a natural sense of emotional security that they feel. Emotional security, emotional safety, understanding how emotionally painful life can be. That's another thing, as I talked about with Saturn and Pisces. I did another video on that back, I believe it was, when did I do that video? I think that might have been July 29th, I think, the day of the full moon in Aquarius. I did that video. Saturn in Pisces. I talked about, maybe the 28th, I don't know. But, I talked about, no, it was the 27th, I think. Yeah. Yeah, because I went home the 29th. It was Monday the 27th, I believe. I talked about how Saturn Pisces understands pain and how difficult this life can be, and how you can feel hopeless, you can feel a loss of hope. But Saturn Pisces is deeply intuitive, deeply empathetic, deeply compassionate. Can hold your hand during the very, very difficult times and understands what it's like to work through the very, very difficult times in your life. So I understand the pain. You can be like, well, you're so stuck in a negative situation. I was certainly feeling this when I was during Saturn Pisces, like feeling so in remorse, so in depression, that I wanted to end my life even in the summer of 2024. Like I was so illy depressed in 2024. That was a really, really rough year for me. It wasn't a very, very bright year for me. Even though it was an even numbered year, it wasn't the best for me at all. Painful, feeling like you cannot be saved, you cannot be fixed, like, loss of hope, and knowing that through these very, very dark times, you become a better person in the process, and you cannot experience the light. The piece of wisdom that I want to offer is that you can experience the good and the fun and the joy of life without experiencing the dark, the difficult, the sad, the grief, the despair, the devastation, like all of that. So you need the both good and bad to really, really make a very dynamic, a very, very full life, a full emotionally based life. So, that is what I'm going to say to that. You need this, deeply. And so, they understand how the pain, the sorrow. Now, with Jupiter trine Saturn, Jupiter is optimism, faith, expansion, growth. And Saturn, remember, is discipline and hard work and putting your nose to the grindstone and committing to it. So they have this optimistic idea and they have a vision. Remember, Jupiter is the vision, Jupiter is the optimism, and they have the realism with Saturn to ground that dream, ground that vision into reality. That's what they really can do in that sense. They have the drive to turn their dreams into reality. Because that's the Saturn, is making your dreams real. Like Saturn in Pisces says, be about your dreams, make them, crystallize them. Actually use your intuition to find the way towards that action, which is Saturn in Aries, that action, that drive to turn your dreams into reality. And so the person with this chart has got to draw healthy boundaries, flowing with the oneness of all that is, but drawing healthy boundaries, not over-sacrificing themselves, not over-giving their energy, not letting themselves become drained and drowned out and a victim. And so because this person's chart is so just like the floodgates just go down and you're just like flowing in all the like the emotions, and you've got to draw some psychic emotional boundaries here. And I think that this is a huge lesson that this person is learning in this life if they have this particular chart, because the water is so deep and emotional and compassionate, but you have to draw the boundaries there. Otherwise, you're just gonna drown. You're just gonna burst. You're not gonna be able to find your sense of identity, your sense of footing, your sense of self, your sense of solid, and feeling grounded amidst that emotion. So that is huge. I'm not gonna make that's no joke. They need to draw boundaries. That's profound. So they go through the journey of who do you emotionally become in the process, not just basing it off of just the destination and what you're doing there, but but who do you become along the way to get from point A to point B? Who do you become in that sense of the word, with being able to do all the stuff that you're doing? With who do you become along the way, really? That's what is kept in mind through all this kind of process going on. So, who do you become? Who do you evolve into? And that is just as important as the destination. It's not just, I'm just working so hard and sacrificing and slaving away. It's all about the end goal. I'm just working so hard and just focusing, not taking your focus out of the present moment, focusing on where you're going. But what about the present moment? What about right here and right now, with who you're learning to become and who you are becoming in the process of getting to point B? From point A to point B, there is that there is a segue, there is that middle piece there is that intersection where you're going down, there is that path, and it's about walking down that path and looking at the transformation and the evolution of who you are with walking down that path. So, so I think that they understand this on a deep level, and they are able to understand the, the journey, and not just the, the destination. So profound. Because who you become is just as important as what you get. Could it be even more important? Maybe. And that is deeply spiritual, to enjoy the journey. And not just a single destination. So, the same can be said about success. Success is a journey, not a single destination. And Saturn is success. Saturn wants to work hard. Saturn wants to achieve, and because Saturn is about the highest you can achieve. Well, that's your mid-heaven, but Saturn is about self-mastery. So it's Capricorn. Saturn rules Capricorn. Capricorn is mastery, mastering something, becoming the best at something. And Saturn wants you to achieve the highest you could achieve. It wants you to work towards your highest potential. That's Saturn energy. And so, enjoying the experience, not getting so caught up in the hard work, into the, and that kind of thing. And this person's able to intuitively and emotionally be in this energy. 2 more aspects, and then I'm going to stop this constant video. So then Jupiter trine Lilith is the next aspect. And now we bring in Lilith, Black Moon Lilith. So the next 2 aspects, Jupiter trine Lilith and the Sun conjunct Lilith, are going to be what I'm talking about next. So we're talking about the signs of Cancer and Scorpio now. So we've talked about Pisces. Now we're moving on to the first 2 water signs, which is Cancer and Scorpio. So there is a deep water trine going on in this person's chart here. So kind of like November of 2022 when there was a grand water trine going on then. So Jupiter trine Lilith. So remember, Lilith is your shadow content. Lilith is who you become in terms of the graciousness of your being. It is about the deeper, darker sides that you've repressed, that you put down, that you've not looked at. Maybe I should do a video on Lilith sometime. I think that I will. Maybe this month. I don't know, because there'll be a lot of general videos this month. Excuse me. Okay, so Lilith, remember, rules over shadows, and it rules over all of those shadowy aspects that you have, that it rules over what you're afraid to express, what you are rejected for expressing, what you're taught not to express, and the part of you that you think is just so powerful that you try to dumb it down, and be quiet about it, not express it. This is in Scorpio, so power, emotional vulnerability, emotional depth, being able to merge your energy with another. So Jupiter trine Lilith, your home is a place, Jupiter in Cancer, deeply nurturing, and Jupiter in Cancer believes in others because it deeply cares, it deeply feels, it deeply loves in a nurturing way. So your home is a place to rest and retreat from the world and regain new energy. Your home is a place to go inside yourself and rest up and find solace and peace and replenish your energy. Recharge your energy. Is that home is a place where we go to when we work so hard and we're out doing this and doing that. And what about coming home and and resting, resting who we are deeply. What about coming back home and getting into our comfortable clothes or whatever, and detaching from the world of responsibility and duty and having to be with people and talk to people and all this. What about taking care of your energy? And this person needs their alone time, needs to replenish their energy, needs to recharge, needs to take care of themselves, needs to nurture themselves and love themselves, and all that kind of stuff. So and this can also be retreating into the home inside yourself, going to the home inside yourself, because Cancer is home. Now, Lilith in Scorpio goes beneath the surface. It probes beneath the surface. It uncovers all the deep and the dark. Uncovers what is hidden, what is needing to be dug up below the surface. And there is a deep, wise understanding of humanity's the collective psychology, humanity's psychology, everyone's psychology, and how they think and how they, how they perceive things and how they, feel about things on a, on a deeply, emotional, intuitive level. And there is a deep, a deep understanding of all this kind of thing going on here. So getting stuck on that. So try to gracefully and vividly move forward. Now their emotions are complicated. And even though this is the case, they can easily find their way through them. They can easily navigate their way through these very, very difficult emotions, where they are able to have all this despair and anxiety and depression and jealousy and guilt and whatever these complex emotions are, but they can always find their way in the end of time. So you can magnetically draw others toward you in a way where they are drawn to your raw and authentic energy. They're drawn to your emotional, connected, and intuitive, deeply psychic energy. They are drawn to this, and they are really, really gravitated towards you in that kind of way. So you have a very, very deep, emotional feeling energy, and now they're going to be attracted to that. So you have powerful psychic and emotional abilities. Tuning into people's intuition, all the kind of things I talked about before. Now, the final aspect is Sun conjunct Lilith and Scorpio. So another thing about Lilith and Scorpio, and these two are meeting together in Scorpio. Sun's at 24 degrees, Scorpio's at like 26 degrees. They're about to conjunct. The Sun is 2 degrees away from Black Moon Lilith. Lilith in Scorpio refuses, and during Lilith in Scorpio, everything felt very depressing. Things could have felt down. You wanted to go in, you wanted to detach. Now Lilith in Sagittarius, and now it's the party. Now we're optimistic. Now we're freedom loving. Now I've been feeling it definitely. Then Lilith and the Sun, Lilith in Scorpio refuses to go along with the superficial elements of society. They, la-da-da-da-da, float above the clouds and connect on a mental, superficial level with each other. No, they don't want to do this. They want deep connection with, emotional truth. They want to connect in an emotionally honest way, an emotionally vulnerable way. They want to connect with you on a soul level, understand you at a very, very deep, profound emotional level. They can be very, very complex. They can be deeply intense. That's another part that I didn't discuss. Their intensity, to be able to go so deep and have that strong emotional connections, they can have a little bit of an edge to them. This indicates that this person has just a very, very edge. But with all the Pisces and all the gentle energy in their chart, this edge is almost like I'm not afraid to love and be compassionate, and any societal structure that squashes out love, empathy, and compassion, I am not going to follow that. Any societal structure that squashes out emotional truth and vulnerability, which does include kindness and compassion toward others with emotional connection, I'm not going to follow that. I'm going to choose to form relationships that are, and this person's not a really intense, powerful person. It's more gentle, but they're going to be probably advocates, and I mean this in all the most positive of ways. They're going to be probably advocates and kind of in the astrologer Pam Gregory on YouTube, talking about love and and compassion, all those kind of things that she talked about. They're gonna not want to follow certain societal structures that squash out emotional vulnerability. They're gonna want to rebel against superficial relationships, and every relationship they're gonna want to form they're going to show how they want deep emotional connection and deep emotional vulnerability and profundity, if that's even the word, in that connection. So they're deep people. They want to go into the deeper, darker aspects of life to enrich their understanding of the world. They're not afraid to delve deep into what's going on there, into the occult, into the taboo. They may be so guarded and so private that they may have a little bit of a wanting to keep secret, wanting to be introverted, where it's hard to get close to them. Because remember, they are a water sign. They need their time alone. They can't be around people too much. They can't be just talking and doing all this too much. They're deeply sensitive souls. They're, they could be highly sensitive people. They want to, they want to, they want to go inside themselves and reflect and meditate and do all these things that are very quiet, recluse type way. They're a bit of a, a recluse, very, very reclusive. I would say recluse, if that's even the word, like that's kind of their personality type. And so you need to be aware of this when people cannot get close to you, when you cannot form the emotionally vulnerable connections with others, because while you want to understand so much about them, you're not letting the person see you for who you are on a deep soul level, because you're holding everything in. You're afraid to be vulnerable. You're afraid to just trust others with having that deep emotional connection. So where can you be in relationships where you are safe to open up? Like, you're here to learn emotional vulnerability. Where you're safe to open up to the other person. Where you're safe to open up to the other person to be able to bond in those deep emotional ways that you really get close to them, and limit your connections. So that's what I want to sort of squeeze out of that. And then you want to transform the world for the better. It's Scorpio's transformation, wanting to change and do all, and you go through the depths of your dark experiences, and you want to make the world a better place with transforming the world, getting to the root core of what's going wrong with the world, emotional things, psychological elements, and you want to change that. You want to make it better, and you want to really get to, like Pluto, like digging into what's going wrong so you can have the transformation. And you seek to transform not only yourself, but also others in your life, to create the most evolving and profound change that you can create. So that is what I want to say about somebody born November 16th of 2025. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Cosmic Sky Podcast. I will see you back tomorrow. I really, really like doing this kind of videos. I do have to admit, doing this in this particular way, I really, really enjoy doing this. I want to, do these types of videos more in the month of August. I have some dates in mind: August 10th, 1965, May 24th, 1957, March 5th, 1939, July 17th, 1958. Like all those kind of dates. That's what I have in mind. I want to discuss those particular dates because I know certain people that were born on those dates, and I want to talk about their astrology there. Maybe incorporate them into the video. But I have two of these that I've done already: June 19th of 1988 and July 11th of 2013. You can go check those out. Over the coming months, I will want to do more of these kind of videos because they're really, really fun to do. I've also done, when I did spoke about Mr. Beast and the astrology of Mr. Beast, I did May 7th of 1998. So that was the video for that. I'm not going to do a video specifically for that because I've already done that with his astrology stuff. So I'm not going to do that. I've already done it. But you can go check that out if you so wish. But more of these types of videos will coming. Anyway, tomorrow I will be discussing the solar eclipse in Leo happening on August 12th of 2026. This is huge. This is a major eclipse. It'll be going all over like Siberia, Greenland, Spain, like all those places. I'm going to be discussing that eclipse in depth and all the themes going on. It's the southern eclipse, it's the new moon, it's setting new intentions. There's a lot to discuss with that eclipse, and I will be giving you a deep dive into what it means collectively tomorrow, and then on August 5th, I will be doing your 12 sign horoscopes for that eclipse coming up, and then continuing with the content with whatever I want to do next. So probably discussing the Lionsgate portal right after that, because that is coming up on August 8th, and I want to talk about that too. So just a little programming update, so to speak. That's what I'll be doing. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and bye for now.